Welcome to Wisdom Talk Radio, a collaborative community of explorers in conscious living. No matter how you want to describe it, we are in a crucible of great change. How can we accelerate the creation and implementation of sustainable ideas and practices? I wanted to talk with someone who knows that we don't have to do what we have always done. So stay tuned for today's conversation because this is needed right now. Hi, I'm Laurie Seymour, host of Wisdom Talk Radio and CEO and founder of the Baca Institute. Head over there to discover your creative advantage by taking the Creative Innovator Quiz. Find out your personal creative innovator style so that you can open your creative flow and make everything in life easier. For visionaries, innovators, company founders, and product designers, optimize your ability to create more in less time while enjoying every minute. My guest today is Chad Warren, and he has a unique distinction as the world's youngest teacher of transcendental meditation starting at age 14. He's not 14 anymore. And he spent quite a bit of his teen years in Europe studying with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the founder of the TM movement. Chad's global perspectives on life and spirituality led him to study directly with legendary Buckminster Fuller, 20th century innovator and visionary back in 1980. It was during these formative years that Chad realized the deep connection we all share with the planet and to each other, and how impacted we are by whatever messages we are exposed to. He also learned of the impact that media has on our thoughts, our physiologies, our emotions, and our consciousness. Founder and CEO of Zen Moose Capital, and I've had the pleasure of having his partner and fellow CEO of Zen Moose Capital on before, Maria Simone. Chad has 40 years of experience in business development, project financing, business consulting, real estate development, and sales and marketing. He has worked extensively with bringing developing businesses and investors together for maximum mutual benefit. The only way we want life to work. The only way life, I think, can work. Welcome, Chad. I am really excited that you're here. We made this happen really quickly. You're leaving town. It was just like we talked yesterday. It was like, let's do this.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You are welcome.
This will be an adventure, if nothing else.
It will be an adventure. So there's so much going on right now. I talked about the crucible that we are really in. And crucible meaning we have the potential for transformation from within this. So, but I want to start, before that piece to how are you seeing the divisiveness, or how are you seeing what's happening right now? I don't even want to label it as that. How are you seeing what's happening right now in the world?
Actually, I think crucible is a wonderful word. I remember actually being in the play, The Crucible, in high school. And it was a pivotal play all about change. And I think that we're in a very, very powerful and very stark moment of contrast. And which is basically duality. I mean, it's like light and dark. It's like we need the dark to see the light and vice versa. Mm-hmm. And it's like it's becoming even more and more contrast. And in a way, it seems very overwhelming and scary and threatening. Mm-hmm. And yet at the same time, it's this opportunity for shift, for actual change of perception, a change there's radical change that can happen in these moments. I was just on a great conference with NAB where they were talking about a lot of the video and virtual technologies that we thought were going to take 3-4 years to be integrated, and it's happening in 3 months. And that's the same thing in every other area of life. When you have this much contrast and this much seeming chaos coming together, it's an opportunity for a new worldview to emerge. My mother used to have this great analogy of a horse, that if you put blinders on a horse, that's all they see. That's their whole universe. That's their whole worldview. If you open the panes or whatever so that it expands that perspective, what happens in the horse's brain is it actually all becomes chaotic, and they actually can't make any sense out of any of it at all until eventually it settles back in to a whole wider perspective. And this moment of chaos, they call it a phase transition in nature. And I think I like to look at it as this is a moment of phase transition. And if we can shift our perspective away from the fear, because I see a lot of people, even people that I've thought or present themselves as spiritual leaders or spiritual people, getting caught up in the fear, getting caught up in the againstness, in the conspiracy theories, and just passing stuff amongst themselves without even looking at it or really thinking about it. I mean, most of it's not even real or true, which is kind of like life, right? I mean, most of this is illusion anyways. But, that we get caught up on those things. And sometimes I get caught up in it because I'll see it and my intellect clicks in and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not even true. There are no plans to inject, chips into people. It's like, that's a fear that people then throw on to certain people or whatever. But there actually are no actual plans of that. So that doesn't mean that somebody might be having a thought or whatever, but it's that people get caught up in the fear of it rather than focusing on what the opportunities are. So that's what I would just invite people to shift that perspective. And because that's where a lot of times we get exhausted getting on Facebook and all these places. And it's like, it's like, it's like all this fear and all this conspiracy. And it's like, where are the solutions? Where are the opportunities? Where can we shift it back into our heart, and let's get out of our heads. Because I find myself getting, oh, wait a minute. No. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I'm getting sucked into my head, and I have to stop and like literally pull myself back and remind myself, get my back into my center, into my heart, and say, okay, why am I getting caught up with that? Because that's not useful time of my energy.
And you can feel that, I'm sure, in your own body. And that's what one thing I want to bring forward to anybody that's listening is, if your body's getting upset and tense and feeling out of sorts, it's because you're being taken out of yourself.
Exactly. And it always boils down to, some kind of fear of some kind. And it might be, and it might be that whatever it is that you can't latch onto, that's not the point. Whatever that thing is you're afraid of, it might be that that's just triggering something inside you.
Yes. Yeah.
And instead we focus on what's outside of us rather than, like you said, get back into your body, feel where is that disturbance? Where is that feeling of offness or, disruptiveness within? And the more we can do that, the more we will heal ourselves, because that's where it all starts.
That
can't
is where it
heal
all
the community
starts.
without healing ourselves.
We are connected with everything and everyone, and yet we can't go out there to do anything without also first attending to ourselves.
Exactly.
That's what I hear you saying.
No, it's absolutely true. So, I mean, the reality is that we are all connected. We're all human beings. We're all spiritual beings having a human experience, and we're all doing it from our perspective. So people, tend to try to demonize other people or other sides. It's like, oh, this person, because they have money, they're doing all these terrible things. They're just a person that has certain things that they want to believe in or they want to support. And you have certain things that you believe in, want to support. So let's acknowledge that they may be different. We may not agree with each other. We don't have to demonize each other. We can love each other. I can love the darkness and I can love the light. I can, it's all deserving of love because it's all part of life and creation.
Yeah.
I don't have to agree with it or have certain parts of it in my life, but I can still love it and I don't have to demonize it.
I remember a teacher of mine saying, you don't have to judge somebody else about something. You don't have to like their act. You don't even have to approve of their act.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you stop seeing that they too are an expression of God in the physical. Exactly.
Because the more we judge, the more we're actually turning on ourselves. Right? Because the judging is always a result of something unhealed within ourselves. So
and it feels awful.
It does.
When I notice any kind of judgment, it can be something simple or impatience with something. I have to come back home and say, okay, take a moment. What's going on? And it's usually just that I'm feeling disconnected from myself. Exactly. It doesn't even have to be an issue that I'm having to address so much as, wait a minute, you've gone outside, come back home.
Right.
And then see what's going on.
And that's really the opportunity for courage. Because courage is being able to, in the midst of all this insanity, step back into your heart, even though your head is saying, no, but I got to deal with this. There's injustice, all this crazy stuff. No, get back to your heart. And that's how injustice is healed. That's how opposites are transcended, right? You can't transcend the seeming opposites in your mind or in your intellect. It's just not possible. The only way to transcend is through the heart. And when I see things like, the policeman in Miami who kneeled down and the protesters came and they were moved to crying and they just connected. And others that step up and say, you know what, we're not here to fight. We're here to march with you and not make it a protest. That's courage. That's love. And that creates unity and healing. And
it's. I want to bring into something into that, which is it's love in action. I can't even get it out. It's love in action. It's not that we just go off on a mountaintop and meditate 24 hours a day and think that that's going to really impact things, because we live in these physical bodies and we're in life.
Absolutely.
So when I come home to my heart, I see what is the action I need to take.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I meditate every day, but not for 20 hours. I do my meditation, get my coffee, and then I have, okay, what can I do to impact the world around me in a positive way? And you're right. Love and action is what matters, because we are of this world. Yes. And we are part of this world. And that's where, looking at, like I love working with my friend Steve Farber and other people, looking at promoting love in business, right? The power of positivity and love in business. We're looking at how can we have different paradigms in business so that they are actually nurturing to not only the employee, but also the C-suite and the owners.
Exactly.
So, because so many of them don't even take care of themselves. how do you commit to taking care of yourself in this process of doing business and making money, which is a spiritual energy in and of itself.
It is indeed. I remember a long time ago, I taught a program actually for one of the major city zoos for their team around the nature of love in management.
Yeah.
And this was probably 25 years ago or so. And so I was definitely ahead of the curve, but so were they in welcoming me in and receiving that. But those are the kinds of conversations that we need to start having so that we can actually make that or bring that forward, not just have it be a great idea.
Exactly. I mean, that's one of the things that we're focusing with Zen Moves Capital. We want to become a bank for transformation, to have a sustainable, ongoing capital source that will support high profit and high impact. You need to have them both, not one and then the other, or hopefully, but it's like, let's bring them together and let's encourage these dialogues wherever we can. I mean, what's really, I remember, I love my daughter. She's brilliant. And she's the principal at San Bernardino High School. And she's literally been working at changing the consciousness of a city. Actually,
but she's in a prime place to do that, a prime position to do that.
Well, the high school actually literally is its own city, which is interesting. But she was telling me how one thing that's kind of a positive out of all this insanity, the quarantine adventure, I call it, is that with all these students at home, a lot of the administrative and district level people are starting to realize that they can get knowledge anywhere. But what's the purpose of coming to school, of actually coming to this facility called a school? And she goes, I've been wanting to have this conversation for years and nobody just would go there because they're so entrenched in the education system as it is. They're very invested in keeping it the status quo. It's been the same since the Industrial Revolution. And she's like, now they're looking at, okay, well, what is the role in terms of creating relationships, in terms of developing the student as a whole? And it's like, she goes, it's the first time I've seen them even willing to discuss the questions and have the conversations. Now, whether it'll lead to immediate change or maybe delayed, but at least it's triggered something. And so these are the things that we like, okay, great. Let's take that and run with it. Let's take it to the next level. And we want to do this in business and in education and in our own lives. Where is the opportunity right now for us to reimagine who we are and how we are in this world? How can we, there's a lot of people having to reimagine their businesses.
Absolutely.
Right? How do they function? Do they do it at home? If they can't do meetings, is there other ways that they can create, cash flow in their lives? And so there's a lot of that going on right now, and there's going to be a reimagining of how real estate is used in commercial sector. So there's a lot of opportunity for creativity, and it's not always all bad. It's like everybody always focuses on the negative.
What are we losing as opposed to what could we be moving into? And when you hold tight to, what has been and think that is the be all and end all and what we should be aiming towards, we miss everything.
Because wherever something is taken away, something else is now presented somewhere else.
Yes. Nature abhors a vacuum.
Exactly. And there's always a preservation of energy. So it's like when something goes away, something else replaces it. So, so I really think that's a great opportunity. But it does take just a little shift of perspective.
Well, can you speak to that? What does that mean for you? What is that shift in perspective that's so needed?
I think part of it starts with self-awareness. So you have to become aware of, I'm getting sucked into this. I'm getting into the whole negative thing. And then just stopping that and taking a break.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you have to replace it with something right then. Sometimes it's just stopping and taking a break.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it's shutting off all your social media for a couple of days
Mm-hmm.
and take a break from it and just be with yourself. And then say, okay, when I see these things, is there another way I can look at it?
Mm-hmm.
Or can I put my attention somewhere else that would be more productive for me, for my business, for my family, and for my heart?
Yeah. Yeah.
What will uplift? You know, we're finally, after many years, I'm going through a storage I've had sitting there. It's like flowing. It's getting energy flowing, right? It's getting the juice that's been stuck, right? Mm-hmm. But it's also, we're doing the, I can't remember what, Maria always remembers the names of things. So, where it's like, if it doesn't bring you joy, get rid of it.
Oh, Marie Kondo.
Marie Kondo. We're Marie Kondoing the hell out of everything. Mm-hmm. So, you know, so it's like, it's the same like that. You know, it's like all this stuff. It's like, yes, I like to know what's going on, but when it starts affecting me negatively, then I like to stop it, because it's not bringing me any joy in my life. So it's like, okay, shut off the news. Let's have some good music, and let's focus on the things that we are really wanting to do and make a difference. Mm-hmm. And
it's not to ignore that. I don't hear you saying, let's ignore what's happening. It's how can we do something? How can we be creative if we're going down a rabbit hole?
Yeah, because you still want to be aware of what's going on. Mm-hmm. You want to be respectful of other people. I mean, like wearing a mask, it's not about your rights. It's just about, that's a health thing. It's like wearing a seatbelt. You know, it's like, it's no big deal on me to wear a mask going into a store. That's just being respectful of other people. Mm-hmm. And I take it out when I leave. So, you know, people, it doesn't matter. You want to be aware of things and be respectful of other people, and have compassion for them. Mm-hmm. You know, let's practice compassion. And I mean, that was like one of the big tenets of Jesus, of Buddha, of all the great masters and teachers throughout history. It's like, you know, compassion and love for ourselves and for others. Mm-hmm. And let's have the respect, so that, because, you know, when we do that, we stay more in our center.
Yes. And when we stay more in our center, then we get to contribute to the world.
And when you're in your center, you're solid, you're immovable. Mm-hmm. So you want to be that combination of an oak tree and a willow. So you want to be infinitely flexible to be able to flow, and yet solidly rooted. Mm-hmm. So, and that happens in the inner bliss in our heart.
And so how do you, for yourself, how do you do that? How do you keep yourself centered?
Well, personally, I've been meditating every day for 50 years.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you've got me beat. By a few.
I started when I was 10, so that's thanks to my mom. Mm-hmm. She was like my spiritual mentor, and along with Maharshi and everybody. But it's like that regular practice of tapping. So I've been doing transcendental meditation since 1968. Mm-hmm. And that habit of tapping into that bliss within, which is an unbounded, infinite source of love and creativity and intelligence within, that created for me a very solid center that's just immovable. Mm-hmm. And so I just encourage someone that, you know, whether it's finding a practice that speaks to you. Mm-hmm. I've always, you know, I'm a big proponent of TM, and I encourage that for everybody. But there's so many great practices, whether it's a meditation, yoga, mindfulness. I mean, my daughter's getting mindfulness into high school and is making huge impacts.
Yes.
So, you know, whatever it is that helps you take that moment of time to get out of all the chaos out here and just to touch back into your own source. That, and make it a practice, make it a regular thing. And so that, I think, is one of the most important things. And also is surrounding yourself with other people that uplift you. A lot of times, we get around people that are like, they're so depressed that we get there.
Right.
And so I've had to change groups of friends throughout my life at different times. And, I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't working for me. I'm gonna go hang out with them. They're more fun, and and they challenge me. They want me to grow and be a better person.
Yeah.
And so I'm
thinking about that in terms of work groups as well. You can be in a work group and you can't just say, okay, well, you depressed me, I got to leave. You've got to find a way within the context of that to raise everybody up and to be able to bring forward the creative potential of each person in that team or in that group, so that the things that the owner or the CEO or the board of directors wants to have happen can happen in a way that's taking aligned action.
Well, that's actually a great point, because there are a lot of situations where you necessarily can't, for whatever reason, get out of that, either that work situation or whatever. Now you can make the choices personally, and maybe not work, but in the work, you can at least start making decisions to be what you would want to be. And exhibit that as much as possible. Because if we look at like a group and they're all kind of Debbie Downers or whatever, and it's like, if somebody comes into that group who is bubbling and positive and laugh, it's amazing how the rest of them start getting more positive and happy and laughing. It's like, it is infectious.
Yeah.
So, that's one of the beautiful things about a lot of the research that they did in TM. They found with a population of a city, they did this, the original study was 52 cities around the world, and then they duplicated it many times, but they found that when 1% of a population started practicing TM regularly, that as soon as they passed that 1%, there was another phase transition, and you found a huge decrease of crime rate, sickness rate, hospital violence, all that stuff went down 16, 20%. So, again, it doesn't take, you don't have to have everybody. A small percentage can have a huge impact. And that's the point. And so you can have an impact on a group.
And that's what I don't want to say hoping for. That's what I'm looking in creating what we're doing right here, is somebody hears something that they get inspired by, or feel moved to do something differently with, or feel some sense of transformation. Is you take that and you started that, and then when that grows and there's more and more people that are doing that and hearing what's possible and feeling what's possible, then you begin to approach a tipping point.
Yeah.
And that happens within an individual and their immediate surroundings. Everybody's been sequestered at home with their families, or a lot of people have. And you hear stories of how they're coming together in ways that are new and remarkable. It happens within a company, within a neighborhood. We have this going out in circles.
Yeah.
And it's that's what we want to bring forward.
No, totally. And when we work with companies, a lot trickles down from the top. So it's like, if you take the CEO and the C-suite of a company and you say, okay, you guys have to invest, bottom line investment in your own health and joy, that will impact all your employees. And it actually positively impacts your bottom line, because you now are treating your customers better. They appreciate you better, all of these things. So number one, encouraging that kind of investment in themselves and in the corporate culture is something that's really important. And like you said, there's a lot of people I've been talking to that have found that because of this quarantine adventure we're having, they've been stuck. They've been forced to do things that they thought would not work, like working from home, for example.
Right.
And we're like, oh, we're afraid that was going to be, really a problem. And now we're finding out, hey, we're getting a lot more done. We don't have to spend 2 hours a day commuting. And when all this is over, we're not going to go back to that. I mean, a certain amount of people are going to need to be in the office. But a lot of people can work and we're just as efficient. And so there are new ways that we can do things. And we've been involved with quite a few Zoom masterminds and groups with, 200, 500 people around the world that we hadn't even thought of doing before.
Right.
So again, there's, like you said, there's new ways that we can, that are impacting and going out in circles, and people are finding new ways to be together and to support each other and love each other. And I think everybody should come together with that point of not of what can you do for me, but if everybody came together with how can I support you? And if we both come together and it's like, how can I support you? And how can I support you? Now we both win.
Yes.
Whereas it's like, well, what can you do for me? What can I do? Then we end up usually walking away with not that much.
Right. And it's not only you and I that win, then it goes out from there.
Exactly.
Because it impacts everything. And people don't realize how much our thought impacts the world. And they look out there and they see the violence and they forget about the inner violence that's going on inside that they haven't addressed. And when they shift that.
That's actually a beautiful point. And that's kind of basically what we're thinking of at the beginning. And that is what we think and what we feel is what we manifest. And the more we put all of our attention on the negative, then that grows.
Yes.
So that's, again, the whole point of let's shift that perspective. It doesn't even take that much. Shifting a perspective from, oh, I don't need to go there. I'm going to stop and go right over here. It's like a little rudder, it's like, and that little shift can have a huge impact in your life. So let's just shift perspective and let's support it. And how can I support you? How can you support, let's support each other. Let's love each other. And let's focus on, let's not be ignorant. We don't have to be naive. We're smart people and we can see what's going on there. And, I don't have, it's like, if I see stuff is crazy over here, I can either see what can I do to diffuse or support the situation, or focus on other things where I can make it better that will spill over and help the other situation. Yes. So there's some different, it's not always about a conflict. It's not always about againstness or fighting. In fact, the most powerful, look at Aikido. It's like, it's about not going against. It's about just the flow. And so that we don't have to, we don't have to do that. It's like sometimes just when we're like, I've seen angry kids that, when my son was in soccer, there was this really angry kid and he was always trying to pick fights. And I would see guys trying to fight against him. And that made it worse and worse and worse. And then I would see somebody else, else take him aside and just hold him. Yeah. And the guy would break down. So it's not always, duality doesn't mean that we have to be against. We love coexisting opposites. they support each other. So let's support each other.
Yeah.
You know, so I think shifting perspective and finding your own center and just taking a break from the negative thinking and replacing it with something else that would be to that would feed your heart, that would make you more happy. I think these are like just a few practical things that are important. Meditate every day, do some yoga. If you can't do that, then, you know, go get outside, you know, run, bike, exercise.
There is such a thing as a walking meditation.
Exactly. You know, laughter yoga. I mean, have you ever done laughter yoga?
I haven't. I mean, I know people that teach it, but I have not done it.
They would do it every morning at 7 a.m. on the beach in Laguna Beach. And you just go down and you just start laughing. And just start laughing and just start laughing. And it's like, it's infectious. And it's like, it's your belly you just start laughing from the depths of your belly. And it's just, it shifts your whole perspective. It floods your brain with serotonin. Life is, you know, it shifts and you leave lighter and happier.
Yeah. And that's what we're talking about right now is how can we go from the place where we've always said no to things,
right,
to yes. And what do we need to say yes to? And what could we say yes to that we've never thought about ever being possible?
Right.
Because we need to look at what's been deemed impossible and start bringing that over onto the other side of the board to see, well, what if that were possible? What would that look like? How could we make that happen? How could we weave that into this current picture?
Right. And it's not, you know, the reality is there has been injustice. You know,
yes,
there is racism. There is all these things happening. People are not treated the same. And again, all of that is based upon fear. Fear of loss of control, fear of loss of power, fear of loss of anything, just loss. And
fear of loss of the old way of being.
Exactly. Because we get very set and attached. And again, that's the whole thing. We get attached to the way it was. And that's where the courage comes in, is allowing that to let go of that way, that old being. And when we let that go and be open to something new, and that actually is not so easy for a lot of people.
Right.
A lot of people have a hard time, and they don't even know that that's what they need to do, or that's what they're doing. But they're just attached to that way of being, and not realizing that, you know what, the new way of being may actually be better for you. And being open to that. And so that again is a choice.
It's a choice.
It's a
choice. And sometimes people are pushed, you know, kicking and screaming into that choice.
Exactly. They will fight to not go there.
You know, and that's part of what's happening, you know, with everything that the virus has engendered is, well, I wouldn't choose this for my work life, you know, to be let go, to have to move on, to do whatever. But okay, this is what is. Now let me see what's possible.
Yeah.
And we have to do that from within that place of radical innovation.
Right. Exactly. And yes, it has been hard for a lot of people. You know, some people have been able to transition fairly simply. Some people, it's been a real challenge to their livelihood and just even their basics of eating and living and taking care of their family. So, I mean, you can't do a spiritual bypass either.
Right.
And, you know, just say, oh, just be happy and light and all that kind of stuff. And you still got to take care of those basic things and your family, and you need to take care of yourself. But being, and there's a lot of frustration for a lot of people being stuck in a place. A lot of people by themselves. You know, it's been easier. I mean, like, you know, Maria, thank God, you know, it's like, I've been together 24/7 and we're both still alive. So I think and And she's a New York Italian, so that's
Yeah, there you go.
So, but there's a lot of people that have been alone or not knowing what to do. And so, we have to have compassion for those and see if we can help them in any way that we can.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm being called on more and more to really to teach people about how to work with their energy and to be able to open to that part of themselves that is creative, that has that deeper connection that they've either forgotten or never known, never discovered. But that's the only way that they can move forward now.
Yeah. Well, we've had to do, mastermind group, where people that relied on, events and meetings, things like that. And Maria did one, there was like, I don't know, 250 people on there, but I was like, they were scared. What the hell do we do?
Right.
Our income is just gone, dried up. And so, okay, what can we do? And it was like, okay, well, we can either be freaked out about it, and that's fun for a day or two, but then let's look at how can we reimagine what we're doing?
Yes.
How can we repackage it? How can we restructure so that it fits the reality of what's going on right now? So there's always a way. And it's amazing how many resources people have, both around themselves and within themselves, that they don't even realize. And again, sometimes it just takes and seeking out, help and support, because sometimes it just takes somebody else to look out and say, well, look at over here. I'm like, oh, I didn't even think of that. I didn't go think.
Exactly.
I can't even see it,
Yes.
And so, I do encourage people to reach out and ask for help. There's a lot of brilliant ideas, and there's a lot of people doing some amazing rethinking and restructuring that's supporting them to make incomes in other ways that they weren't before.
Yes. And you're involved in that, are you not?
Absolutely.
So can you
in the background, throwing in my 2 cents.
I suspect there's a little more than that, but how can people reach you, Chad? What is their, how can they find you?
Well, I have a LinkedIn page under Chad Warren. I also have zenmoosecapital.com is our website.
Okay.
Like I said, we're fundraising for that company right now. We have developed a financial methodology to tap into restricted stock as an ongoing capital source for funding local projects. And so that's actually most of my focus. We also have some amazing media technologies that we're building and developing. And then we're also helping people, get funding, unsecured personal loans. So
funding for projects?
They can use it. These are for people that have W-2 income, and we can do loans up to $400,000 or 2 times their yearly income, and they have a 650 or above FICO score. So basically, these are unsecured loans, and we can get them approved and funded within a week. And this is something that we've been tied into a network of 220 lenders. And when the COVID thing happened, we realized that it's a resource that a lot of people needed. So we're helping a lot more people tap into it. A lot of people use it for investing in real estate, gap funding, helping them buy a business, buy a franchise, or fund a business, or funding education so that they can re-educate themselves and shift into a different direction.
Yes.
So we have that website, which is zenmoneysolutions.com. And so again, we're trying to serve as many people as we can and do whatever we can to support projects that lift consciousness and have a positive impact, both monetarily and in terms of consciousness, and positively impacting their awareness and their life.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad that you are doing that. And I encourage our listening audience, if there's someone there that fits into that particular niche, to reach out to you.
Yeah. If you need, we do some business consulting and as well. But yeah, basically, if they need resources for funding, or if they have investors that want to get involved in the entertainment arena, that is a more secure way of doing it, where we leverage on a much grander scale, then yeah, give us a call, or just say hi. You want to laugh together?
That's right. We'll do some laughing. Chad, I so appreciate your willingness to jump on here with us today and to put forward the sense of hopefulness and possibility.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. It was fun, and I really appreciate you, and I really appreciate what you're doing. I love the fact that you are focused on spreading wisdom and wherever you can find it, and that's it's so needed. And I forget that not everybody thinks this way.
Right.
And so many people really desire and are looking for a way to expand their own self. And so thank you for doing this.
Thank you. And thank you for being with us today at Wisdom Talk Radio. Join us here next time for more wisdom, discovery, and illumination. Remember, you can find us on your favorite place to listen to podcasts, whatever that might be. And if you've enjoyed listening today, leave us a review, support us, because that helps more people to access the wisdom and to transform the world. And for more about fast-tracking your ideas to creation and revenue, find me, Laurie Seymour, over at thebacainstitute.com. Take the quiz and find out your creative innovator style so that you can turn your ideas into reality without missing another moment. Thanks for joining us here at Wisdom Talk Radio. We wish you well in your conscious explorations. For more information and to join in the conversation, our website is wisdomtalkradio.com or at Wisdom Talk Radio on Facebook.